taking on bureaucrats and corporations that would stand in the way of health freedom and making sense out of medical propaganda. The voice of health, freedom, and liberty, Robert Scott Bell.
How many ways are available for you to heal? I mean, all of the ways. It's infinite. It's not limited, except sometimes by our own imagination, our own belief system, our own limitations, or our own feelings of unworthiness. And I know that's been out there for so many. I've been there myself, and I've overcome a lot to be where I am here on the Robert Scott Bell Show. So I'm glad you're with me, and I try to bring you the best in healing from all over planet Earth. And sometimes I even hear from you when you call us live or you call me and leave me a message on my voicemail at 866-939-BELL, 866-939-2355. There was a nice letter that came in last week. I read it on my show during the week that you hear the Robert Scott Bell Show through Natural News Radio as well. And it's so great. It really says a lot because it's what I've dedicated my life to do, to help everybody that's ready to be helped to heal. And I thought I'd read it for my Sunday audience, you guys here listening through GCN, wherever you are. It says, "Hi, RSB. First of all, thank you. Thank you so much to you and your staff and all the folks who sponsor your radio show. I've just recently found you through your interview with Thomas Woods on the Peter Schiff Show." And by the way, I'd done that. It's been a while. I guess it keeps playing. Maybe it's a rerun. But thank you to Thomas Woods. Thank you to Peter Schiff as well for that. KO keeps going on here. She says, you have me hooked on your show now, too. Believe me, I'm addictive. No, I'm just kidding. In a good way, a healthy way. I have learned so much, she says, in the last month, and I've started using the products you're recommending, like Sovereign Silver and One World Way. I'm completely in awe of how much better I feel already. I am even saving up to buy a Rife machine. I was so excited to hear that. The BCX Ultra that we talked about. I had Judy Irwin on a few times over the last many months, and including some of the people that she's helped to get well through utilizing the Rife frequency technology. And I've been utilizing the BCX Ultra now, my wife and I, and it's absolutely sensational because I've been using Rife for years. And this one took it up a notch, especially if you remember Judy talking about these plasma things. Awesome. We're going to talk more about that. But this is the key here to healing is about everything. And maybe this is speaking to you. I've talked about giving the gift of healing that keeps on giving. When we go out and buy a supplement, we eat it, we use it, we got to go buy another one. When we do something like Rife frequency, if you get the right kind, the right made, and it's sturdy and you take care of it, this can last not only a lifetime but lifetimes. And this is what I'm talking about, the real investment in health and healing, not the phony investments that a lot of people try to sell you on. So I am so grateful for KO and you writing in. KO Fitzgerald, you know who you are. She says, thanks again for your service and show. I'm looking forward to responding. And I talked about some issues that she had there as well. But I am so grateful now that I can bring back Judy Irwin, who's been a great supporter here of the Robert Scott Bell Show, this message of health freedom. And I'm hearing also from you out there that are responding well. And we haven't yet got her backstory. So it's time to do that. Judy, are you there?
I'm here.
Judy, thanks for bearing with me as we kick off this hour of the Robert Scott Bell Show. Judy Irwin, we've got you linked up in the show notes. We'll check it out. We'll tell everybody how to connect with you afterwards. But there's no question you have passion and dedication and integrity as a healer. That's why we're connected here. But there's always a backstory. There's always something that got you stimulated to move this direction.
Yeah, there's quite a story with all of that. The truth is I've been at alternatives pretty much my whole adult life. And I guess the one of the main things I'd like to share is that I was a very sick child, and I inherited juvenile rheumatoid arthritis from my mother. So my mother was sick all the time, and we watched with medicine not doing very well. So by the time I was 17, I had all of the same symptoms that she did. You know, you have a lot of autoimmune issues with those sorts of disease processes.
Right.
And drugs probably are not going to fix that very well. Mm-hmm. And so it was that problem that started me on an alternative path in my early 20s. I grew up in Kentucky, and back then, you know, vegetarian was unheard of. If you gave up meat, you were going to die.
Yeah, you know, this is a whole different era. I just keep thinking now of Neil Diamond, Kentucky Woman, every time I talk to you now.
Yeah, well, you know, meat and potatoes and sugar. And, everybody around me thought I was absolutely out of my mind.
So you're in the heartland of a lot of people that don't understand what vegetarians are. I mean, they'll say, what are you, a cow? You eat only grass? What is that?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And so, of course, there was a lot to learn, and I was very blessed with interesting folks that came into my life with lessons about these things that I knew nothing about. And then when I was about 24, I moved to Florida, and I learned about fasting and wheatgrass juice fasting. And I had always had a lot of respiratory problems and asthma and all of this junk. Well, even as a vegetarian, I was allergic to wheat. Mm-hmm. And, of course, that's very common knowledge now. But 30-some-odd years ago, nobody thought about it. And changing my diet and getting off the wheat was huge. And then I cured the arthritis with wheatgrass juice fasting.
This is fascinating here. We talk about healing the autoimmune scenarios, the inflammatory conditions. I've described them in great detail over the years here, Judy. And our background is quite similar, although I was not into the, let's say, diagnosed autoimmunity. I had massive allergies. I did have some skeletal inflammation as a child. I certainly had the respiratory allergy issues, sinuses, lungs as well, and had to overcome so much. And I even went vegetarian for quite some time at the beginning stages of my healing recovery because my digestive system was just shot. I didn't have anything else I could do.
Well, yeah, but for me, the interesting thing was learning to fast because when you don't eat it, and then you start eating these foods that your body isn't tolerating well, you really start to get it. Mm-hmm. And, there again, 20, 30 years ago, people didn't acknowledge food allergies very often. Sometimes you would hear about peanut allergy or lactose intolerance, but you very rarely heard about anybody being allergic to wheat. I mean, bread is the staff of life, for heaven's sakes,
Yeah.
And so it was that sort of background that got me into alternatives as a very young person. Mm-hmm. And I learned a lot about herbs and Chinese medicine.
Yes.
And learned to make my own homeopathic remedies.
Nice.
I still do that.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, Judy, do you remember when you first started fasting? I hadn't thought about this for years, but that was quite a shift for me as well to learn even how to fast for 24 hours, much less longer periods of time. I mean, my body didn't know what to do. It was a very difficult thing to teach it.
Oh, yeah. And at that point, there again, I wasn't healthy. I had all these problems. I couldn't do much exercise. I was really overweight. In your mind, and you've got all these patterns in your mind, and you're going to die if you don't eat 3 meals a day, and you've got all these things telling you this. It takes a lot of wherewithal, and I would say focus and consciousness to actually stretch that limit and do it. I think realistically fasting and certain juice regimens are very powerful for keeping us healthy. They're extremely powerful if you can learn to do it properly in helping to heal the body.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another aspect of this in our culture, Judy, here in the Western American kind of mindset. A lot of these things, although we might go to the Native Americans, if you want to call them, they know about these things. And a lot of other cultures, what we call primitive around the world, it's second nature. Certainly the animals. You can watch an animal get sick, it'll know to fast, but we're the dummy humans that have forgotten nature and figure, well, no, we'll just put more toxic poisons in it. Of course, I tried that for the first 18, 19 years of life before I started tapering off of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, they always say feed you when you're sick and feed you this and you got to eat and all that junk. But like you say, an animal will instinctively quit eating because the body needs the energy to do other things when you're seriously ill.
Yeah, redirecting.
And when you have a lot of these autoimmune and really huge underlying things, especially if you've inherited some of the things from your parents' bad genetics, the food becomes very toxic. And in reality, you are just doing that. You're poisoning your system by continuing to eat.
Yes.
better off not eating. Get some of that poison out of you. But, of course, then, like you say, your body's never done that. And then when the poisons start coming out, you feel even worse.
Yeah, I know. You think you're dying, and actually your body is finally redirecting energies to counter all the toxic poisons that are damaging us, damaging you at any point in your life. And by the way, if you're just joining us for the Robert Scott Bell Show here, second hour today, and we're talking with Judy Irwin. She has the BCX Ultra right frequency machine that I utilize, and many of the listeners here are plugging into. And you can find her at bioelectricsforhealth.com. We'll give you a number for reaching Judy during the week or even the weekend. We can leave a message anytime in a moment. But suffice it to say, we're getting the backstory of Judy. What makes her tick? Why does she get motivated to do what she's doing? Because she's helped so many people, and she's helped many of you, and she's helped me as well. And I'm very grateful for her. When we come back from this break, we're going to get further into this. She overcame autoimmune diseases, the rheumatoid arthritis, and more. What can you do? We're going to find out after the break. Check it all out at robertscottbell.com. Back after this on the Robert Scott Bell Show. Talking with Judy Irwin, and we're talking the BCX Ultra. We're going to get to the right frequency, but I'm really fascinated by your story. So much mirrors my own in many ways. Although in some ways I think you were worse off than me, and it's not like a contest. Who was sicker? No, that's not what we're doing. But it's the
game.
Yeah, no, I love the stories, however minor or severe, and of course it shares with people the possibility wherever you are right now listening to the program, someone's always been sicker. You can always find someone who's worse off, and I don't like to hear about the suffering. At the same time, the triumph over it through these natural mechanisms and methods is inspiring to me, Judy. We brought some people on to talk about it. Now we're getting you on the hot seat here, so you're doing great.
Well, yeah, and so here I was in my later 20s, and I had cured an incurable disease. I had adopted a raw food vegan diet. My family back in Kentucky was convinced I belonged in a crazy place,
Yeah.
Lock her up. And, of course, this was still quite a long time ago. Ann Wigmore was doing her thing. That was who I followed. I would encourage everyone to learn about fasting and wheatgrass juice and that sort of thing, because it's one of the most powerful things you can do for your body. And it's you can do it yourself if you gain the knowledge in advance about how you're going to detox. As you and I both know, detoxing can be scary. But, so I had followed this lifestyle for many, many years. I had been doing this for like 18 years when I began to get sick again. And, I thought I would never get sick again. See what happens when you think you know what's going to happen. Did you get kind of cocky and said, oh man, I've overcome so much, I'm out of the woods, and you kind of shifted from your diet, or were there other things that came into your life that kind of set you on a downturn in the reemergence of the illnesses or ailments? I am not sure. No, I never did that, the cocky part of it. No, life has been pretty tough for me, and I learned many years ago about gratitude. So when I've got it good, I'm very grateful, because it can change really fast. And so I think there were probably other extenuating issues that caused the initial imbalances. I had, as a young woman, before I knew better, taken a lot of birth control pills. They caused huge hormone imbalance. That was a big problem. Yes. As the situation started to progress, I was like 38, and they're telling me I've got menopause, and I'm going, wait a minute. I've been off these pills forever, but they really mess up your system. And so as your system starts shifting and changing as you do get older, then you get into all sorts of problems. And I think that was a big part of it. I also think I had been in Florida too long, and I was had become disposed to the dampness and the mold. Yes. If you know about Chinese medicine, they have a lot of different principles, and one of them is dampness can invade the internal organs. Right, and so I had some of that going on. I used to take vacations and come to the desert, and people think I was they're again kind of weird because I lived in a tropical paradise. What are you doing?
But how did you know? Did you find on a happenstance visit to the desert that you somehow felt better in that drier condition?
Well, I did have that, but I've studied. I've got a lot of background, and there again, I've been blessed with very well-educated healers that have chosen to share with me what they learn and teach me. And that's a very big gift, in my opinion, to gain that knowledge from those that have had the opportunity to go to school and spend time in Asia working with masters. You know, the Chinese and Oriental disciplines have long-standing roots, and they can be very effective.
Oh, yeah. This is the whole history of medicine is just so much beyond what we were learned or taught in the West here in America, where the whole of history, medical history, was erased and rewritten as if there was no natural medicine at the dawn of America and right through much of its history into the 20th century when the petrochemical cartel, Rockefellers, etc., took over. And they also went after Royal Raymond Rife. They went after many natural cancer cures as well. They wanted to suppress it so that they could control and make medical, let's say, healing a medical, let's say, club or a monopoly. And therefore, what we're saying here, what I do every week or 6 days a week on the Robert Scott Bell Show, flies in the face of so much of what's considered consensus. You know, when you guys are talking energy, what is that crazy stuff, energy? It's like, well, energy sustains us. You never say you're out of molecules, do you? You know what I'm saying?
We wouldn't do very well without the sun's energy.
Exactly. So,
and there again, they don't consider, for some reason, people don't look at that as energy. I don't get it.
I know. It's an electromagnetic universe. I encourage everybody to read the chapter about that in Liam Sheff's wonderful new book, Official Stories. But if we're looking at where you were at this point, now you've overcome a lot of illnesses and ailments, and then you've got a back downturn again, and you're saying, oh my gosh, I got to deal with this, I got to change my environment again and do other things. Is this the point where you were introduced to the Rife energy, or was it still yet to come?
No, that was the beginning of a very long struggle, if you will, with a disease process that nobody could really define what was happening. Here again, that's been 16, 17, 18, about 18 years ago, Robert. So, you know, there were no tests for Lyme disease.
Right. There
were only very little knowledge of Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and that was lethal.
Yeah.
I was blessed with very good healers, and so they offered me a lot of options, but we still were not able to define it and actually heal it. I went to Mexico for a lot of high-tech treatments at the time that I couldn't get in this country, and even that didn't stop the process. It would slow it down, it would help support me, but I was still gradually dying. I got to the point where I was pretty much bedridden. I would get up for 20 minutes and go back to bed for 30. I had more problems than most people can imagine unless you've been there. All the arthritis-type symptoms came back. I had 80% kidney failure. I had heart attacks, and I was getting all of the symptoms of multiple sclerosis, which meant I was losing motor skills. I couldn't walk, couldn't write. I couldn't drive. I'm 45 years old. I can't drive anymore. What's wrong with this picture?
Wow. And there, unfortunately, are more and more people that are being debilitated in this way, and the mystery still remains in modern medicine. All they do is throw antibiotics, prednisone, and worse chemotherapeutic agents against what unknown issues, and no addressing the terrain or the energy systems of the body.
Well, that, and they don't address the fact that the body needs support in many ways. You can't just throw a chemical on top of it and think that's going to heal a system that is imploding more
Right. Stand by, Judy. We got to take a quick break here. We're talking with Judy Irwin. We'll tell you how to get to the BCX Ultra, this Rife machine that we use here on the Robert Scott Bell Show, after this.
The Robert Scott Bell Show.
Source for independent talk radio for over a decade. We are the GCN Radio Network.
to learn where we're going today on the Robert Scott Bell Show, check it all out at the show notes at robertscottbell.com. That'll take you to a link to Judy Irwin at bioelectricsforhealth.com. More on that, but she hasn't even gotten there yet, folks. This is an amazing healing journey. And, Judy, you've been through so much, I'm thinking you must have thought you knew it all or pretty darn close to find out, oh, my gosh, there's whole other levels of healing I'm not aware of yet.
Well, yeah, that, and, I thought I was doing all the right stuff to protect myself from never getting ill again. And some of those concepts can really get us into an illusion, so to speak. The body can break down even if we think we're perfect. And so I had all these alternatives at my fingertips, a couple of incredible healers, and I was getting nowhere. And I was a big energy person, and homeopathy and herbs, and of course fasting. Fasting had always saved me. No matter what was going on wrong, I could go and fast and it would be better. And so the furthest thing from my mind was a machine. I'm a plant lady, Yes. I like to make homeopathy. That doesn't include machines. How weird is that, know? So I actually read a book called The Cure for All Diseases. That was Hulda Clark's book. It had just come out, and she talked about frequencies, and she talked about Rife. Well, the frequency part, because I knew so much about energy and homeopathy and energy healing and that sort of thing, which was all still pretty new in this country, that made sense to me. That the pathogens or the problems could have frequencies that were out of balance. And so that's actually where I first got the idea. The web was just getting started. There was very little information. The web has provided people with access to the information about how Rife did do and all of the amazing things that we can access. It's a very great thing, but back then we didn't have much of it.
No, you're right. I mean, to reach out and get this information, it was almost by the grace of God in so many ways. It was difficult. There weren't as many open pathways, information sources, and the like. And I've always learned in let's say, after I came through the worst of my illnesses and ailments, I had to be spiritually grounded to understand this concept. But when the student is ready, the teacher appears, or the master appears. And
Absolutely.
What does it take for us to get there to be ready and be open to this kind of healing information? Some of us have to suffer a heck of a lot before we're opened up. As you've heard people going through what you've been through, and their lives are changed and transformed for the better because of it.
Well, and at this stage, I would say my biggest blessing has been to help others that have been in a similar position. I was out of options. I was dying. Nobody had any answers for me, and if you've ever been in that space, it's pretty scary. And it is, there again, it is the grace of God, if you will, that gets you through those spaces. Yeah. And put you out on the other side, and your whole life and your whole path changes at that point. And so I got a hold of this crazy machine. It's a last resort. And it was something I thought there was no chance it could help me because I'd already done everything, right?
So you didn't even go in and embrace it and say, well, this is probably going to work. Yeah, I found it. You were like, dude, I don't even know what this is going to do, but you were at that point where I got to try something because everything else isn't.
Well, yeah, and this made a little bit of sense to me. I had nothing else to try. I was so sick and really very close to death. I didn't know. For almost 2 full years, I didn't know if I would make it through the next 24 hours. My heart was so bad, and everything was so bad, And when you're like that, you do want to die.
Oh, yeah. No, I understand. The misery, the suffering, the pain, everything else. Listen, we got to take another break here. Judy Irwin is my guest. When we come back, we're going to get into the what happened next. What did she do? How did she integrate this energy, this machine, into the healing that she's here with us today and is just continuing to give the gift of healing out there with this knowledge and information and even more, the BCX Ultra. Stand by. Lots more healing to go on the Robert Scott Bell Show.
Live around the world, the Robert Scott Bell Show.
Now, I know you're saying, give me Judy's number. I want to call Judy Irwin. Of course, you just wait till we finish the story. You're wanting to call her. But I want to give you that number right now just in case so you don't miss it. Write it down. I'll give it to you again. But right now, 800-936-6240, 800-936-6240. If you're not sure, just go to robertscottbell.com. You'll click, there's a banner there you can click on, or just write in the text. I've hot linked it with the number as well. Judy, okay, you got it. You got this right thing. You're not sure about it, but you got nothing else to lose, and it sort of started making sense. You were energetically sensitive. How did you begin to use it? What did you do, and what happened, and how fast?
Oh, that was another big story. It's one of those, another thing, because people say, well, how did you find the machine? And I just say, well, it came out of nowhere, pretty much, this little piece of information about it. And so we pursued it, and I got the machine. There was no help. I was so sick I couldn't think. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the first thing I do is I decide, well, I know I've got the dampness thing, so I must have Candida. So I ran Candida frequencies, and they made me even sicker. So, there we were. And I'm like, oh, this is lovely. I'm going to kill myself with the machine now.
Wow.
But I began a process of doing simple cleansings and combining it with all the other many things, and I was actually feeling quite a bit better. I'd been using the machine about 7 months, and I found a doctor who was an amazing man and had spent much of his life doing frequencies and helping people heal. And he was the one that came with the diagnosis that was the most accurate. And I had over 100 pathogens. I had 38 of them were in my brain and central nervous system.
Wow.
The most serious of them was Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and that's lethal.
Yes, well, and they can't nail this stuff with antibiotics, especially where it's hiding out as such. And of course, you'd be lucky to survive the amount of onslaught that they normally would give you. So you're now identifying it in a different realm and finding out, wait a second, could there be some frequencies that we can enter into the body, inflow into the body that could counteract their presence, maybe eradicate them altogether?
Well, absolutely. And see, I had all of this extraordinary treatment available to me, but they were not able to cross into the brain. And that was the big thing about this particular manufacturer. Of course, the machine I had was way old compared to the BCX Ultra. It was a much earlier model with the first version of the ray tubes, the plasma. Mm-hmm. But it did have the radio wave. And it was the radio wave that allowed the frequency to penetrate into my skull, into my brain. And I talk to a lot of people that are pretty desperate. So I make a joke. I say, if they can get through my hard head, they can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I began to work with that, it took me quite a long time. It took another 8 or 9 months of very severe detoxing. I was extraordinarily sick, and all of my systems were very weakened, and so I had to really be careful that I didn't overdo it. And then, all told, it was about 2 years, but I had spent 2 years being in bed pretty much, so yes. It was a fair trade-off. It was about 2 years when I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get well.
How old?
Tell the world.
And I know this is rude, but how old were you at the time?
Oh, gosh, when I began to get well, about 48.
Wow. See, I'm thinking in my own history, I started when I was 24. It took me 2 years to undo the vast majority of the things that had plagued me since I was born, basically, and through the developmental years. So you were double the age, and it only took you 2 years. That's impressive. That's double the rate. Now, in life...
Well, but I had at that point, I had 20 years of other alternative modalities to combine with...
Oh, I don't discount that, believe me.
Frequencies are extraordinarily powerful.
Yeah.
They are the most powerful tool I've ever found, but you do need other things.
Yes, and that's the point of why I love you, too, because you understand the integration of all of these things. Some people would try to say, oh, just do this and go out and eat McDonald's. It doesn't matter. It's like, hello? No. That's why we know.
No, you can't do that.
Exactly. So that's why, again, this is what I call the responsible way, the appropriate way, the way that can actually provide the tool as the appropriate tool for use in conjunction with everything else that we need to do. And you did it. I've done it, and others are tapping into it and seeing extraordinary, what we call miracles, but the miracle is that they tried it. In many ways, we're so shut down because other people's opinions, they say, oh, don't do it, that's energy. We embrace the healing from all of the gifts that are out there, and this is one of the most extraordinary ones.
Well, the frequencies are, and the radio frequencies are even more powerful because they can get way deep in the body.
Yes, and stand by. We're going to go to that leap because my interest in Rife didn't get all to the radio frequencies until the BCX Ultra. So we're going to talk about that with Judy Irwin on the other side of the break and tell you how you can get one, too. Stand by. Special thanks to all our wonderful sponsors here on the Robert Scott Bell Show. You know who they are. If you don't already, just go to my show notes at robertscottbell.com. You'll see them embedded there, phone numbers, links, and everything. Say thanks to them. As we say thanks to Judy Irwin, my guest this hour, and she's absolutely terrific, willing to share her story so that her gift of healing in her own life can help others, helps me, helps us all. And Judy, by the way, get your pencils ready. I'm going to give you the phone number, website, and everything before we're done in this segment. So stand by. But Judy, you plug in 100 pathogens, 38 in the brain and the central nervous system. Now you've got the energy that can reach it. You say a couple of years more effort, but that's nothing at 48 compared to where some people are, and they're devastated. They don't think there's any option to heal at all, and now they have it.
Well, that's the one thing I really want to stress to everyone. Even though it seems hopeless, there is always a way to help your body be better. You just can't give up. It's really the bottom line. And like you say, there's a spiritual aspect to that. I encourage everyone, to find that in themselves because we all do get that help when we need it the most.
Judy, that may be the most important thing that we can hear and say at any given time, to recognize that life is trying to give us the gift. Spirit, whatever you call it, is trying to give us this gift of healing. The question is, are we open to receive it? And if so, at that moment, then all the healing possibilities can come flooding into your life. And the Rife frequency, the BCX Ultra, may be that thing. And in fact, as I said so many times before in this program, it's something that you could pass down to your kids and grandkids as well. So it's something that never goes bad.
No, it never goes bad. It keeps on going. In fact, I've had a number of clients where they've gotten the machine in-term cancers, And in every situation, the families have kept the machines. They just love them. Mm-hmm. They think they're just too invaluable to get rid of them. So the frequencies are a very, very powerful tool. It can penetrate so deep into the body that it can clean out things that nothing else can reach. And that was a big surprise to me.
Yes.
Because I thought if I fasted, at one point I thought if I fasted enough I would drive it out, but that wasn't the case. The body was still harboring it. And goodness knows I probably carried spotted fever for many, many years before it actually surfaced as my main pathogen. Mm-hmm. So, and I think we talked about this with Beverly, the death sentences. You get on the web and you read what you've got and you're 96% lethal.
Yeah.
You almost want to just give up right then.
Oh, I know. The negativity, because the medical establishment and the beliefs about it are like the old death sticks where they point at you and they say you're going to die in 3 days, and you do just because you believe it. And so they're very powerful, these pronouncements of how long do you have to live? Well, don't ask and don't believe them. In many cases, they don't know. They're just making pronouncements as the priestcrafts of the Church of the Biological Mysticism are wont to do. But here we know that healing is possible at all stages once we open up to the gifts. And you are a gift, in my opinion, Judy, because of what you're doing here, honestly. And
I feel like it's my gift, my blessing to be able to help these other folks that feel like they have no hope. Mm-hmm. Because that's the worst place to be in when you're so sick and nobody can help you and you try a bazillion things and you feel very hopeless and very helpless.
Yes.
And this particular tool, if you can also focus on herbs in the diet and the spiritual aspect of receiving, because there's a lot out there that we don't let God give us, basically.
Judy, when you first got the Rife, because when I first learned about Rife and I was fascinated, I had to utilize these kind of metal cylinders that I would hold the electrodes, which also are on the BCX, but I didn't have access to the plasma. This was phenomenal. Did you know about the plasma right away, or was this a new addition?
Actually, I had 3 machines before I got to this line. Back then it was called the Biotech 2000. And through the 3 machines, I had been able to learn more and learn about plasma and what Rife actually had done with plasma tubes, and I had learned about the radio wave. And I feel those are two of the very most important things. And this manufacturer that does the BCX Ultra had just come out with a unit about a year before I got it that had these plasma tubes. And so we got this thing, and it was amazing to me, and what's amazing to me now is even after all these problems and all this long term, I had an incurable disease as a child. I'm pushing 60, and I'm getting better all the time. That's a miracle in and of itself.
Yeah, I thought you were saying I'm pushing 60, I'm about to have a baby. No, not.
No, please, no baby.
Well,
no, Robert, that would not be funny.
I know. I made that joke because my wife would hear that. She says, 2 is enough, honey. Stay away. We've got.
Back.
Yeah, exactly. But you also mentioned early on, and I want to just come back full circle for a lot of the ladies listening here, that birth control pills in the teen years through the young adult years can mess your endocrine system up for a lifetime. And you did a lot to work on that initially. But even with the Rife machine, there are frequencies that can affect the ovaries, the uterus, the female system positively as well. So it's not only just the Lyme and the different things, which are very important. I just want to remind everybody of that.
Well, the frequencies are everything. And I tell people, some of the most important frequency sets are the ones that support the body, the ones that balance you, bring you back into normal brainwave states. You and I were talking right before we started today about the electromagnetic. This affects our brain constantly. And our brain isn't allowed to be in its natural patterns anymore. And so frequencies can help you do that. Aside from cleaning out the pathogens, it can do so many things.
Well, if you'd like to try it out, this is your opportunity. The BCX Ultra is available through Judy. She's an absolute sweetheart, as you can hear. She's doing a lot of great work, and I'm encouraging her to find more people I want to talk to about their experiences with it, because too much negativity out there telling you can't heal, when we know here on this show you can, and Judy's helping us bring that to you. It's at bioelectricsforhealth.com, bioelectricsforhealth.com, 800-936-6240, 800-936-6240. You can always call Judy, leave her a message, say, hey, do you think it's appropriate for me? Tell her your situation. You're willing to help out, and I'm so grateful. We're almost out of time here, though. Judy, thank you so much. Bless you. You definitely help us remind everybody, each and every one of you out there, that the power to heal is yours.